Okay, so this week we are diving into crypto.
All right.
It is a wild world out there.
It is, yeah.
Um, and you have sent us some really, really interesting articles. We're seeing a lot of chatter online, a lot of buzz, especially about recent trends in the market,
Yeah,
a lot of volatility.
absolutely.
Um, we've also got some fraud cases, and a lot of people are trying to figure out like what's going to happen next with Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're going to deep dive into this week.
Sounds good.
I think a lot of people want to know, is this whole thing sustainable, or are we headed for like a major correction?
Right.
But thankfully, we have an expert here who is going to help us kind of sort through all this and hopefully find some hidden gems in the data.
Yeah, absolutely. There is so much going on. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So first thing that jumps out at me from the articles you sent, Bitcoin. What a roller coaster, huh?
Oh my God.
Up, down,
Yeah.
all over the place.
Roller coaster game.
People are getting nervous.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, even the seasoned investors, right?
Totally.
Like I was reading this article about, Trump's trade tariffs. People were saying that was like one of the triggers
Interesting.
for these swings.
Mm-hmm.
But then we've got that Bybit hack where $1.5 billion in Ether, poof, gone.
Oh, wow.
So I'm sitting here, I'm like, is this normal? Is this just how it works, or is there something bigger, bigger issue with exchange security in general?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think when we look at the volatility in the market, it's inherent to crypto.
Sure.
It's part of the game, so to speak. But the Bybit hack does raise some serious concerns about security practices. And, when we think about things like global economic uncertainty, trade wars, these can make investors a little bit skittish. They kind of flock to assets like Bitcoin as a bit of a safe haven. But when something like a major security breach happens, it erodes trust. And that's where we see those really, really dramatic price drops.
Yeah, it just makes people nervous.
Absolutely.
And then they pull their money out.
Exactly.
And it's not just, like we were saying, the external factors, right?
Right.
You sent in some articles about these ETF outflows. What is that exactly?
So ETF stands for Exchange Traded Fund.
Okay.
And so ETF outflows basically happen when investors decide to pull their money out of funds that focus on Bitcoin.
Got it.
So these funds, they provide a way for, more traditional investors to kind of dip their toes into the Bitcoin world without actually owning Bitcoin directly.
Ah.
So when there's like a sense of fear in the market, these investors, they tend to pull out.
Yeah.
And that contributes to the downward pressure on Bitcoin's price.
Right. So it's all connected. Like it's kind of crazy, global economics, these ETFs, the hacks, all of it's tied to how Bitcoin performs. It's fascinating.
It is. It's very interesting to see all the connections.
It is, but it's also a little scary. Like is crypto just vulnerable to anything? Like could one big global event just totally tank the market?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
I guess it is.
I think it's a valid concern. The crypto market is still relatively young, compared to traditional financial markets.
Yeah.
And it lacks those mature regulatory frameworks. So, yeah, it's definitely more susceptible to these shocks and to manipulation.
Well, and speaking of people trying to manipulate the system, this Gain Bitcoin scandal in India.
Yes.
Wow. We're talking $790 million. That's not just like a little whoopsie.
No.
This was massive. So tell us a little bit about this case and how it kind of reflects on the broader crypto world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Game Bitcoin case, it's a stark reminder that, while there are legitimate opportunities in the crypto space,
Sure.
there are also, bad actors seeking to exploit the system.
Right.
So this particular scheme, it was a multi-level marketing operation.
Right.
Where people were, they were being promised these incredibly high returns just for recruiting new investors.
Oh, wow.
And unfortunately, those returns were paid out using the funds from the new recruits.
Oh, no.
So it was a classic pyramid scheme.
Classic pyramid scheme.
And the scale of this fraud, $790 million, it's staggering. And it really highlights the need for stronger investor protection regulations, especially, in developing economies where awareness about the risks associated with crypto may not be as high.
Yeah, it's really sad to see people get taken advantage of like that. And I think this story really, highlights the need for everyone to do their homework. Like, don't just jump into something blindly, right?
Oh, absolutely. Research is paramount.
Yeah.
Understand the technology, understand the risks, do your research on the specific project you're investing in.
Yeah. Yeah. Know what you're getting into.
Absolutely.
Okay, so speaking of understanding the landscape, you sent in this article about the upcoming White House Crypto Summit.
Yes.
It's happening on March 7th, and I feel like this could be a really defining moment for crypto here in the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got people who are saying regulations, it'll stifle innovation, kill the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got other people saying regulations are necessary for mainstream adoption.
Right.
So I have to ask, where do you land on all of this?
It is the big debate, isn't it? They're going to be tackling some really, really important topics at the summit. Things like regulatory policies, oversight of stable coins, Bitcoin's role in the U.S. financial system. It's hard to say how things are going to shake out. But I think a balanced approach is really key here. We need clear regulations that protect investors without stifling innovation. That could actually be a really good thing because it could attract institutional investors and just generally boost confidence in the market. But if we go too far, if the policies are too restrictive, then we could end up pushing activity underground.
Oh, that would be bad.
Yeah, because then it's even harder to track and regulate.
So it's a delicate balance.
It is. It's very delicate.
So it sounds like this summit could really send ripples throughout the global crypto community.
For sure.
But what about the future of Bitcoin itself? I mean, the articles you sent were kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Some analysts are saying it's gonna correct, could drop as low as like $70,000, and then others are saying, no, we're going up. So what do we make of all these different predictions?
Yeah, it's interesting. So the analysts who are predicting a drop, they're looking at a couple things. First of all, historical trends. Bitcoin historically has these cycles of boom and bust. And some analysts thinking, okay, we're due for a correction. Right? Then we have the U.S. dollar. The strong U.S. dollar is putting downward pressure on Bitcoin.
Okay.
Because it makes the cryptocurrency less attractive to international investors. And then, of course, there's all the global trade tensions we were talking about earlier. That adds to the overall economic uncertainty.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are some pretty compelling arguments for why we might see a dip.
Right.
But what about the people who are saying, get ready for a surge? Like, what are they basing that on?
Yeah. So the bullish analysts are looking at a couple different things. They're really focused on these technical indicators, specifically one called the RSI, the Relative Strength Index.
RSI.
Got it. And it basically helps traders understand if an asset is overbought or oversold. And right now, the RSI is suggesting that Bitcoin might be oversold.
Interesting.
So they're thinking, okay, that could be a good buying opportunity.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we're seeing more and more institutional adoption of crypto, and then there's the potential for clearer regulations after this White House summit. So some analysts are thinking all of that could lead to a surge in Bitcoin's price.
So, I mean, wow, there's a lot to consider here.
There really is.
And it feels like we're really at a crossroads.
Yeah, a very, very pivotal moment.
So, dear listener, what stands out to you from all this? What are you going to be keeping your eye on?
Yeah.
Because one thing is for sure, crypto, it's unpredictable. Global events, security concerns, investor behavior, all of it can send the market on a wild ride.
Yeah, and while the potential for profit is definitely there, it's important to remember the risks. This White House summit, it could really be a turning point for digital assets. And the outcomes are going to have a big impact on the market, not just in the U.S., but globally. So keep paying attention.
Yeah.
Because these developments could have a major impact on your investments no matter where you are in the world.
Absolutely.
So stay informed, stay vigilant.
And buckle up.
Buckle up, exactly.
Because it's going to be a wild ride.
It always is.
All right, that's our deep dive for this week. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.